What's up? Hello. Good morning. And let's get this show on the road, shall we? Today brings the conclusion of week 13. Tomorrow begins week 14. Wow. All right. 2 more weeks to go, my friends, and the challenge will be finished. So the goal is to be able to combine different herbs for different purposes using wisdom, using the intuition, using the spirit of the plant that exists within it. Now, how do we come to understand these kinds of things? We can use magical repositories and we can use books of wisdom. Well, what do those look like? Cunningham's Herbal Encyclopedia, Magical Herbs, right? There's also one of my favorites is the Master Book of Herbalism by Paul Barrel. Now, this is a good one. This has lots and lots of great opportunities within it to study and to apply different applications of the herbs, the ingredients, and what they're function for, right? And then I've got Culpeper's Herbal. This one's from the 1790s. So this is a source material text that's referenced by Paul Barrel in his book quite regularly, in fact, when it comes to most applications of his herbs. So what herbs are we going to be using today and talking about? We're going to be talking about blessed thistle. We're going to be talking about Angelica Root, and we're going to be talking about yellow dock, right? Now, when it comes to yellow dock, right, this is what Barrel has to say. All docks are under Jupiter, of which the red dock, which is commonly called bloodwort, cleanseth the blood and strengthens the liver. But the yellow dock is the root that's best to be taken when either the blood or the liver is affected by cholera. Right? The name dock is applied to a widespread tribe of broad-leafed wayside weeds having roots possessing astringent qualities united with some cathartic principle, rendering them valuable substances for rhubarb as a plant of the same family. Gerard records many of the types of docks and illustrates 8 of them, which I mention as an example of the variety to be found. They are found nearly everywhere, but should not be confused with burdock, which is not really a dock at all, but a member of the thistle family. The leaves of the young shoots of the docks may be cooked and eaten, being quite nutritious but less tasty. Some of the docks grow 6 feet in height and all bear flowers at the tops of tall stems, and they look much like rhubarb when gone to seed. It's used as a astringent, a laxative. Yellow dock contains rumicin, which makes an excellent in the treatment of liver disorders and skin ailments, and has been used to calm an irritating cough, and is considered a useful herb in the treatment of cancers. Neither Culpeper nor Gerard record this particular variety. The great water dock is recorded by both Grieve and Gerard as the largest of all docks, with a very thick root of yellow color, brown on the outside. As with others, the root is astringent. With the great watery variety, the root is particularly strong, and the root may be gathered and dried and ground to a powder. This powder is excellent for many types of oral complaints, such as bleeding of the gums, and may be used for brushing of one's teeth, right? And so you've got the medicinal wisdoms of these ingredients, right? But then you've also got the magical applications of these things. And so we have to go back a little bit to another section within the book and look at not just what the magic is behind it, but what is the medicine behind it. And that's one of those very delicate situations, because you don't want to you really don't want to overdo the significance of the spiritual side without consideration of what the physical side will be. Like, these are chemical ingredients. They are dangerous under certain situations, right? like the Angelica Root, you shouldn't be. Like, Angelica has many interesting magical properties. It's one of the most valuable herbs of protection with a long history in the use of works against spells and enchantments and all forms of evil. Not only does it grant protection from negative energies, but it also brings energy into one's life to manifest good fortune. Use of Angelica through bathing brings the most healthy aura, radiant and joyful positive energy to the psychic self. Angelica is said to be an herb of Atlantis, and in current use, meditation as an incense or a ritual drink has put practitioners in touch with Atlantean energies, visions, and understandings. Whether or not Atlantis existed in the mundane world is irrelevant to the value of teachings touching into such legends, right? The use of Angelica takes many forms and gives off a pungent aroma, which, included in incense, may be ingested as tea or an elixir and may be used in ritual bathing, burnt offering, or kept intact as an amulet. Some of the values of Angelica are a deeper understanding of inner light, insight, and inspiration in the purpose and the self made hold for bettering the world, and the wisdom being in touch with that part of the inner self which is truly immortal. Angelica has also been used as a visionary herb, used to increase one's ability to see into the other realities and times. Ritually, Angelica may be used to commune with the Archangel Michael, right? And so this is where it's really interesting, is because the combination of what the magic is behind these ingredients and the principles of power are. And so you have to just think, like, okay, well, what is the use of these? What's my implementation going to be on this, right? And then again, our ingredient today is also blessed thistle. And so Culpepper says Mars rules this thistle. It's cordial, sudorific, and for all sorts of malignant and pestilential fevers, right? Gerard says, blessed thistle taken in meat or drink is good for the swimming and the giddiness of the head. It strengthens memory, and it is a singular remedy against deafness. Now, I have no idea to speak to the deafness of what he's talking about. Like, if is it for like a head cold, like you catch deafness is like a your head's plugged up like an ear infection. So he doesn't go into that quite as much. The lore behind it is a religious herb used to invoke the god Pan. It has a reputation as an aphrodisiac, and in the past was used widely to remove bad energies of a hex. It still finds use as a magical herb today, primarily as an herb of protection. Avoid large doses of this herb, for it emits a strong emetic. In fact, the property which makes it this needed herb in the cabinet of the herbalist, it brings about vomiting with minimal discomfort and can be used in emergency cases where a toxic substance has been ingested and must be removed by causing a person to vomit up the contents of the stomach. It is certainly better than the suggestion of drinking soapy water. Mild doses of blessed thistle are used when the stomach is recovering from the siege of the flu, or in a similar weakened state. It will stimulate the appetite to keep the stomach balanced and content. It's a tonic, a stimulant, an emetic, and an emmenagogue. And so we'll look up those words so that way you know exactly what they are. Some of them. See, this is why I like to use this book, is because it goes through and it covers these words. And so I apologize profusely for my pronunciation of some of these terminologies, but there we go. I shall improve, right? These are some of the words like I read, but I never speak it loud. So this is practice, right? An emmenagogue is the herbs that stimulate the menstrual flow and is used to recommend, and its use is recommended for those who have difficulty or discomfort with the cycle. Among them are cohosh, both black and blue, ergot, motherwort, pennyroyal, rue, and tansy. So remember when I said in the description of this, my friends, that if you're pregnant, you should not be on this because it will cause your body to start its menses. It will start the contractions, and it will probably be an abortifacient if you're not careful. So it'll make you vomit, and it'll make your intestines want to run out and scream and murder you. So try to avoid that, right? And then you've got what else did it say? An emetic is the stuff that's going to make you cause it to contract. inducing vomiting, such as food poisoning, removal of a foreign substance, or other drastic cases. Some of the herbs require large doses, others may be dangerous and should be used with extreme care. Among them are boneset, elderroot, lobella, mustard, and vervain. So be careful when you're using this one as an emetic, if you're going to actually ingest this ingredient. So you just want to avoid that if possible. Now, we'll get into the Angelica root and what it says about that. Like I said, it said that you could do, you can use it to evoke the god Michael. Angelica has this history steeped in lore and magical practices. You get a large amount of information about this one herb from the author of Grieve. One more charming customs in Eastern Europe where Angelica is carried into the markets accompanied by ancient chants learned in childhood. These verses are so ancient as to be unintelligible, but are passed on orally as a melody and syllabic sounds. Although the lore of Angelica predates Christianity, it quickly became associated with the Annunciation and with St. Michael. It has long been associated with the protection from all forms of evil and was considered a most important herb in the protection against the plague. It's a diaphoretic, an expectorant, a stimulant, a tonic, carminative, a pulmonary, and an emmenagogue. So again, it'll cause your uterus to start contracting, ladies. So be careful when you use it. Your actions as a carminative is going to be, just so that we know what that word means, is these herbs are all pleasant for the digestion of the stomach and work well to relieve stomach gas, mild cramps, and tension. In many ways, they are similar to aromatics, but are given to a specified remedial purpose. Among them is allspice, aniseed, angelica, catnip, cloves, dill, L-campaign, fennel, ginger, peppermint, spearmint, valerian, and yarrow. So again, you just want to be careful when you use these things. A diaphoretic is, in this case, to refer to the herbs that cause the body to perspire. They are used in mild fevers and in cases where the skin is hot and dry. They are generally not as strong as a sudorific herb. So the one that I said, the last one with the blessed thistle, where it'll cause your body to sweat. Although these are terms interchanged by some, they include angelica, boneset, camphor, catnip, marigold, pennyroyal, and yarrow. So when we used the pennyroyal yesterday, these are things that you have to be aware of. And just so that way you know, a sudorific is a term for those herbs which induce sweating more strongly than diaphoretics. These includes cayenne, germander, marigold, vervain, and yarrow. So again, when you're using yarrow, be careful. When you're using these ingredients, be careful. These are cleansing herbs, right? And so we've covered blessed thistle, we've covered angelica, and we've covered the yellow dog, right? Now, I've marked in culpepers. I know I'm going on and on and on about these, but it's a fascinating bit of history. So, like I said, this is material from the 1700s is where this book comes from, and so I apologize profusely if my reading of this is more choppy than of regular English, because this includes some of the old English characters where the S is an F looking thing. Excuse me. So let's begin. That is the angelical or angel-like herb. On what occasion this excellent name was first given unto it, I know not, unless it was for the excellent virtues thereof, or for that God made it known to man by the ministry of an angel. I suppose the former case rather to be true. However, I am not able to prove the other, so I think that no man can give any good reason to the contrary. For we know that God hath made his angels ministering spirits to serve us for the safeguard of our souls and also our bodies. But upon what occasion soever the name was given, it is excellent, and so are its properties. Angelica is a hot, dry, and at least in the 3rd degree. Hot and dry in the 3rd degree. That's a Masonic term, and that's alchemical right there. So if you're trying to include an ingredient in your blend that represents a hot and dry capacity for it, Angelica is excellent, right? Now, what would you use the alchemical concept for hot and dry in your spellcraft? Well, you could use it for a situation needs to change, right? It needs to become very, very hot, usually angry, usually rage, usually there is chaos that comes, right? Think about it like a desert, right? You get thrust into the desert. It's hot, it's miserable, you don't want to move. It's slow. Dry means it's not going to be moving like a fluid thing. It's going to be like sandy and dust everywhere. So you have to consider, all right, what are the principles of these things that I want to have? Are you applying this heat to a watery substance so it dries it out? Or are you applying this to a situation of cold, right? Like if you are trying to change those arrangements, you can consider those properties as well. Both physically, what are the conditions of the spell that you're trying to use this ingredient in? Is it a situation where things are elevated? There is heat, there is passion, there is something that needs to dry out, right? Something that you need to make steamy and change the conditions of, right? So if you're using a watery herb that deals with an emotion, right? Well, the catalyst that you can use would be Angelica to cause a change in that emotion, to make that emotion go from cold, wet to hot and dry, right? So if you need to change someone's emotional state by using the combination of Angelica and Yellow Dog cuts the ties to things. Angelica causes domination. So if you need to get somebody out of a shitty situation, right, and they're an emotionally cold, distant thing, well, if you cause a hot change to that and the emotions dry up, then your spellcraft allows you to be able to essentially remove said individual from the situation. Right? And then if you're using the Blessed Thistle has a secondary side effect of being able to give vitality to something. So if you need the spell to have vitality, or if you need to have the individual to have vitality in order to be able to withstand the changes of those things which you're talking about, then yes, it absolutely can do these kinds of things, right? And so Angelica is a hot and dry, at least to the third degree, and all the later writers agree upon this, and the experience proveth the same. That is good against poison, pestilent airs, and the pestilence itself. So it's a warding against the plague. The practitioners of Germany write it thus: if any man be suddenly taken either with the pestilence or with the pestilence ague, with it too much sweating, let him drink of the powder of the root, half a drachm, mingled with a drachm of treacle, and in 3/4 spoonfuls of the water of Angelica, distilled from the roots, and after his going to bed, covering himself well, and let him fast at least 3 hours after. And if he do, he will begin to sweat, and by the help of God, he will be cured of his disease. For want of treacle, one may take a whole drachm of the root of Angelica in powder with so much of the distilled water as aforesaid, and it will have the same effect. The root of Angelica well steeped in vinegar and smelt into the time of pestilence, and the same liquor being sometimes drunk, fasting, preserveth from infection. But in my judgment, it is better to take an orange or a lemon, cut off the top, pick out the meat, prick it full of small holes, and put it into a piece of sponge or a fine linen cloth, dipping the aforesaid vinegar, and smell it. The water distilled out of the roots of Angelica, or the powder of the same, is good against gnawing and the pains of the belly occasioned by cold, if the body is not be bound. It is good against all war diseases as pleurisy, and in the beginning, before the heat of the inflammation become into the body. For that it dissolveth and scattereth abroad such humors as to cause pleurisy. Moreover, it is good for the diseases of the lungs if they come of a cold cause, and in the form of a stringurian if from a cold cause, or of a stopping. It is good for a woman that is in travel. It expelleth the wind that is in the body, and easeth the pain that cometh from the same. So again, it's for, you got your stomach pain. A woman in travel. Eases cramps and bloating, apparently. The root may be used in wine or water as the nature of the sick require it. The root or the juice put into the hollow tooth taketh away the ache. The same effect has the distilled water being put into the ear. So yes. So they were talking about an ear infection or an earache. The juice of the water of Angelica quickens the eyesight and breaks the little films that cover the eyes, causing darkness of sight. Of the roots of Angelica, and pitch may be a good plaster against the biting of mad beasts. The water, the juice, or the powder of this root sprinkled upon the diseased place is a very good remedy against old, deep sores, for they scour and cleanse them and cover the bones with flesh. The water of the same, in a cold cause, is good to be laid on places diseased with the gout and sciatica, for it easeth the pain and melteth away tough humors that are gathered together. The seed is like a virtue with the root. The wild Angelica that groweth here in the low woods and by the waterside is of no such virtue as the other. Howbeit the surgeons seeth the root of it in the wine to heal green wounds. So they're using that to ward off the plague. These properties I have gathered out of the German writers. I have not yet proved them all myself, but the diverse of them I have proved, and I found them to be true. I have set down the peel of an orange or lemon with a meat where is also commanded by the physicians to be a good preservative both against poison and the infection of pestilence. Late writers affirm that the roots of Angelica are opposite to all poison and infection. If any be infected with the plague or poisoned, they give him immediately to drink a drachm of powder of this root with wine in the water, and in the summer with distilled water of carduus, Carduus, benedictus, and then get him to bed and cover him up until he sweat freely. The same root has been taken fasting in the morning, but held in the mouth doth keep and preserve the body from the evil of the air. So, gas. The leaves of Angelica pounded with the leaves of rue and honey are very good to be laid at the biting of mad dogs, and presently after the hurt. So if you get bitten by a dog, you're good. Use that as a pain relief. The wine being drunk wherein the root and the leaves of Angelica hath been boiled. There is both the garden and wild Angelica. Some also reckon up a water kind. It groweth up in the great hollow stalks 4 or 5 feet high, having broad divided leaves of a pale green color. At the top cometh 4 umbels of white flowers, after which succeeded flat seed, somewhat with whitish. There we go. See, I told you I was going to be messing up some words. The root perisheth every year. It is, if it be suffered to feed. Place and time. Angelica in Latin and English. It grows commonly in our gardens and wild also in many places. Flowers about July and the seed is ripe soon after. The government and virtues. It is the herb of the sun in Leo. Let it be gathered when he is there. The moon applying to his good aspect. Let it be gathered either in his hour or in the hour of Jupiter, and let the sun be angular. Observe in the gathering of the herbs of other planets, you may happen to do wonders. In all epidemical diseases caused by Saturn. This is a preservative as it grows, and it relifts poison by defending and comforting the heart, blood, and spirits. It doth against the plague in all epidemial diseases. So diseases of the skin, right? The root, if taken to powder, is the weight of half a drachm with some good treacle in cardus water, and party thereupon laid to sweat in his bed. If the treacle was not be had, take it alone in cardus or Angelica water. The stalks of the roots candied and eaten, sating are preservatives in time and eaten fasting are good preservatives in times of infection, and other times warm and comfort a cold stomach. The root also steeped in vinegar, and a little of that vinegar taken sometimes fasting. The root smelled unto is good for the same purpose. A water distilled from the root simply, or steeped in wine and distilled in a glass, is much more effectual than water of the leaves And this water is drunk 2 or 3 spoonfuls at a time, and easeth all pains and torments of coming of the cold and wind to the body, and not to be bound. And taken some in the root with powder helpeth purify also with the diseases of the lungs and the coughs and the filthic. Ugh, stupid words. Shortness of breath, and as a syrup and stalks and the like. Right. So, urine procureth the woman's courses, and expelleth the afterbirth, opening of the floppings of the liver and the spleen, and briefly easeth the difficulties of all winds and inward feelings. So you see what I mean by when you do the history of the herbs, right? And you really want to make sure that if you're going to be going through the effort to go and do at-home alchemy, right, and you're going to be consuming these ingredients, they have a lot of applications to them that are quite interesting. And so using this as a means by which you can stop or start a woman's menses, or rather to cause the contractions, right? To cause sweating, to cause that kind of thing. What mystical properties are we talking about here? Well, in this case, if you burn it, right, you'll put yourself into a state of condition, right? So if you're going to be burning Angelica, you'll probably get sweaty. You'll probably get the release of that chi, right? That the prana, if you want to call it, from the body if you inhale it, right? So what are some hoodoo uses of Angelica root? You can use it ground up, or you can use the whole thing in a puppet, wrapped it with the Spanish moss, the body of the puppet being the master root in order to be commanding, compelling, right? You're creating a body of the thing, and you're using a symbiotic relationship with the moss in order to bind the stuffing of the thing. And then you can intermix that with different herbs and spells and things like that. And so you're creating a body of command, right, with Angelica root. You're commanding the root to do a thing, right? And in this case, thing being the definition of causing spells to occur, but not so much like a particular type of spell. Like, it's just you're going to do magic with it, right? And so I call it a thing. Now, Doc, shorter passage, still interesting, is many kinds, and there are so well known that I shall not trouble you with a description of them. The government and virtues. All docks under Jupiter, and which the red dock is commonly called bloodworth, cleaneth the blood and strengthens the liver. But the yellow dock root is the best to be taken when either the blood or the liver is affected by choler. All of them have a kind of cooling, but not alike drying quality. The sorrel being most cold, the bloodwort's most drying. The burdock I have spoken of by itself, and it's not actually a dock. The seed is of most of the kinds, whether in the garden or in the field, do lay stalks, do stay, lasks, or fluxes of all sorts. The loathings of the stomach, though choler, and is helpful of those who spit blood. The roots boiled in vinegar help the itch, scabs, and breaking out of the skin if bathed therewith. The diluted water of the herb and the root hath the same virtue, and cleaneth the skin of freckles. So it acts as a skin bleach. Morphews and other sorts of discolored therein. All docks being boiled with meat make it boil the sooner. Besides bloodwort, it is exceedingly strengthening to the liver and procures good blood, being as wholesome as a pot herb as any that grows in the garden. So you can cook with it, and it strengthens the body. But in that strength, you have to be careful, because while you're doing that, you don't want to overdo, right? This is something you don't want to do. And so then we're going to go into the thistle. Culpepper is fantastic. He's a nut, but he's there is so many different kinds of thistles. I don't want to bore you with this, because it's history, right? Of these, there are many kinds growing in here in England, which are so well known that they need no description. Their difference is easily known by the places where they grow. Some grow in fields, some in meadows, some among the corn, others on heaths, greens, and waste grounds in many places. They all flower in July and August, and their seed is ripe quickly after. Government and virtues of the plant. Mars rules them. Thistles are good to provoke urine and amend the rank smell of the armpits or of the whole body, being boiled in wine and drunk, and are said to help stinking breath and to strengthen the stomach. Pliny says that the Jews bathed on the place that wanteth hair, it being falling off, will cause it to grow again speedily. I don't know, maybe I should try boiling it in see if I get my hair back. No, so the thing is that when you're using these things, guys, they have a history, right? And the ancients knew that. And the vitality, right, to be able to return that which was lost, right, to be able to command, to be able to cut the ties to those things, right? And so we have to think about, all right, what is the application of our spellcraft going to be with this? So we know that if we drink or consume, it will cause sweating, right? And so what would you do with this? I would use this to stuff a puppet. So we're going to put this ingredient in, and then we're going to use it accordingly. And so we've got Angelica Root. And then we've got the Blessed Thistle, right? We're going to give restoration and vitality to things. And so we're commanding with the domination of Angelica Root, right? So this is what the Hoodoo uses are, according to Catherine Yarn Root, right? From Hoodoo, Root, and Herb Magic. Now, the application of this is different. All right. So, Angelica. It is a powerful guardian healer and said to enhance female power, protect children, ward off evil, and improve health and family matters. You can use it to bless a baby. You can use it to cause fear or to cure fear. Mexicans say that if a girl or young woman has been badly frightened, she should carry a whole Angelica root in a white bag. If she was frightened by a man, add a holy card for the Archangel Michael. Right? So you actually carry the root for protection. I wouldn't actually guarantee that, but it's interesting in the application of it. To control your partner, mix equal parts Angelica and ginseng with a pair of Adam and Eve roots, grind them all to powder and mix with an equal volume of white flour. Scorch this in the pan on the stove. Be careful not to burn it. Use it to dust the house for 9 days and you will control your mate. Right? To purify your home, use Angelica with a peaceful home powder. And salt. Put a pinch in each corner of the room and a pinch in each outside corner of the building. And this is especially good if you're moving into a house where the previous inhabitants had domestic disturbances. So, you can use it for that as well. For uncrossing, you can use it with salt and sulfur to make a jinx-breaking blend and to strengthen the action and undo the workings of your enemies. To prevent enemies from entering your home, tie 9 equal length pieces of devil's shoestring parallel to a Angelica root. Neatly wrap and tie the bundle with a white thread, finish it off with 9 knots, and place it over the door to guard the house. Right? So you can use it for protection too. So we have a protection thing, and we have a thing for vitality, and then we have the dock, yellow dock in this case. Let's see how she puts it. Is it? Oh, it's actually by the yellow. So we do yellow. Back to the end of the book. To the end of the book. Yellow dock. Draws money, business customers, and love. An Indian love doll. Then make an Iroquois doll baby. Name a yellow dock root for your intended. Carry it around and love it up for a month. Then boil it and wash your face and hands. Sprinkle your clothes with the dock tea. It can also be added to wash for the doorknobs, to draw trade to a shop, and the tea can be added to any money-drawing floor wash. So it's got some good history to it. And then you've got Blessed Thistle. Let's see here. What do they say about blessed thistle? It is brewed into tea with salt, and the tea is sprinkled around the home for protection from evil. This ritual is to accompany the recitation of psalms. Blessed thistle was once used to believe to cure the plague. Well, it doesn't cure the plague. We know it does alleviate certain things. So, again, you just have to be aware that what you're doing with these ingredients and your application of them just determines the outcome. And so, severing the ties that bond, right? Like Cunningham's book states that it separates the attachment of energies, right? And so you can use it for rituals of crossing. So you've got hex breaking ingredients, you've got vitality ingredients, and Angelica Root, which can help protect the individual. And so with a powder like this, you can add it to the stuffing of a puppet, right? You can make a distillation out of it, right? And so if you use a wine to create a tincture and then distill the wine and get the water out of it, that's what they're talking about. And so you make a sort of Angelica alcohol with it. And we can fire up the retort next week and really get into a little bit more of that. I'll get some wine and we can do that. But I just wanted to go deeper into what the old books say on these ingredients and to talk about the history that they're not just for spells or for intangibles. Like there was a very long period of human history where they had to rely on the wisdom of knowing what roots in nature would do what, and to have the means and the association of those plants in order to be able to produce things in a safe manner. So that way you've got something that's not only your clients at stake, but also to keep your, it's to keep you, your friends, your family safe from different diseases and such, right? And so they had a medicine garden. And that's one of the things with the Academy project that I really want to get going is the development of a medicine garden and the development of these old witchcraft herbs and such like that, so that the people that are going to be using these things in magical practice, again, in this case, we're just talking about these for the use of our spells as a means to cause specific change with the environment. So using Yellow Dock to separate the conditions that you don't want, to use Angelica to attach it to the conditions that you do want, and the Blessed Thistle so that you have the vitality to endure those ingredients. So it changes your situation. Again, that which is cold can be made hot. Right? You change the situation. You invert the way that the things are going. If it's a fluid movement of energy, you can slow it down, right? Or if you need to dry something out so that way it doesn't become fetid and rotting, right? Like cold and wet and earthy, you can use this to stimulate that heat. You can use this to stimulate the body's heat, right? And to bring out the necessary change in the environment. So with that, my friends, I have gone on quite long enough. I'm going to finish grinding this down. And I might make a distillation. There is no right in the afternoon today. That will resume again on Monday at 2 p.m. as we get into our week 14. But in a little bit, there is going to be that weekend workshop. They are not recorded. They are for live participation only, so that those people that engage with the community have an opportunity to do so, where we get together, we talk, we, build out our robustness of practice, right? This week was a fantastic class. For those of you that have gotten a chance to see those videos, I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you engaging. Thank you for your comments, my friends. And I will see you on the other side, right? Tomorrow for the spell of the day. Remember, don't be evil. Mind your ingredients. Do your history on these ingredients, right? Consider the arrangement that we're making. It's not just about the spellcraft. Like yesterday, I still have to bottle it up, but this is the decoction that I made, right? It's the infusion of the herbs that we made from our spell of the day yesterday. I made it reach a boil a couple of times in order to be able to concentrate that fluid down and to extract as much virtues as I possibly could from it. It's basically like overboiling a tea, right? You want to get as many of the virtues of it out. And so that's going to become the base of a water for some of the inks of power that I'm going to be using for the Book of Power, which is still a project that I have not forgotten about and I will continue to be developing. I'm just, like I said, using the spell of the day ingredients to work towards we have 2 weeks before this challenge is finished, right? And so what's going to occur with the workshop after the 2 weeks is finished? Well, we could talk about demons all day long for 72 days. We could go into each of the summoning rituals for all of those from the Pseudomonarchia Daemonium. We can go through the talismans for the greater key, right? And the implementation of those ingredients, based on the methods that I would use to work in order to be able to make those talismans or to be able to make those for others, right? And so the inclusion of astrological principles, like this is a series that goes on and on and on, teaching on the high magical principles and the application of these things from viable practice, things that I'm doing, things that members of the community are doing. So that way, those that are new to the craft actually understand this stuff and can apply this stuff, right? You don't necessarily need to have giant bags of herbs. You don't necessarily need to have books that are 300 years old. But, if you're going to be a wizard, be a wizard. Enjoy it. Revel in it. Like, this is fun. This kind of wisdom, this kind of education is an amazing opportunity for the development of those next levels of communication and community, right? It was because it's the study and the coming together of all of these different parts that I look forward to working with you on. So be sure to like and subscribe. See you in the community. And remember, my friends, don't be evil. And mind your sensitivities with these ingredients. Bye for now, y'all.